Greg Staley here with Diverge Media. I'm with Brian Figueiredo, the new blue candidate for, I always mess up the riding. We're in Telsmere, right?
Yeah, Elgin Middlesex London was the riding I just was a candidate for. I just ran there. Quite the
St.
February.
Thomas, Elmer, Telsmere, right?
No, I'm at the edge of the riding. So it's actually Elmer. It goes all the way down to Port Stanley, Port Burwell, St. Thomas, Dorchester, Belmont, Thorndale. It's huge. It's 3,400 square kilometers of a riding that I had 4 weeks to campaign on in the dead of winter.
And you did. Come on, get it done.
Yeah.
That's a crazy big riding. Anyways, we have an election announced, and we're going to talk about that today. We have really, it's like there's no. I think it's pretty clear that it's liberal or conservative. NDP, the only role they can really play is maybe marginally spoiler, take votes from the liberals, which would help the conservatives a lot. So if you're a conservative, you should basically be cheering on the NDP at this point. But we have this backdrop where the conservatives, just a matter of months ago, were up 20, almost 30 points.
Mm-hmm.
And now the polling's showing them neck and neck. And I'm going to pull that up now. But it's quite the fall from grace for the conservatives. And then we can talk about what that really means, I guess. But you can see it's neck and neck. I guess they have liberals up. What do they have? The liberals actually winning a majority, I think is how they broke it down here.
Yeah, I saw on 338 this morning that the liberals were polling for 172 seats and the conservatives for 130. I will add, though, right when Trudeau made his resignation notice or his intentions, which he actually did do, I'll give him that. But the conservatives were around 220 to 230 seats. So within the last month, they've at least swung the voter base enough to lose 90 to 100 seats that were projected for them.
Allegedly.
So, well, sure. I mean, it was kind of looking like it was going to be the Mulrooney Turner shellacking that happened, I think, in '84. And no, it's looking like a tight race. And for all the absolute self-destructive policies that the Liberal Party of Canada has put into place in the last 9.5 years, how do you fumble the ball that bad?
Yeah, it's like missing on a wide open net, right? To steal a hockey analogy from the Carney Liberals. We'll talk about that later.
Sure.
But you go to wide open net, all you got to do is shoot. And they somehow managed to trip, it looks like. And will they get up and get off their knees and Wayne Gretzky into the empty net? I don't know. But yeah, people don't have a short-term memory. I mean, we've been absolutely decimated by the Liberals. And it's the same cabinet, same people involved in that Liberal Party under Carney as it was Trudeau. So it's like, are we really supposed to believe Canadians suddenly woke up and, bought into the Kool-Aid, as it were? Oh, the central banker is going to save us. The guy who wrote in his book Values that we need to end internal combustion engines. Yeah. He's the guy that cares about average Canadians. Like, right. All he's been doing over the last decade is not living in Canada and advocating for big business and woke ideology. But suddenly he's going to fight for, our oil and gas and our mineral resources sectors and all the things that drive our economy and help it go boom. He's going to be the guy that stand up to Trump. I don't buy it.
Yeah. Well, I think anybody that's been paying attention shouldn't buy it. It's pretty clearly that he was appointed and put in as a fresh face to finish the job that the Trudeau Liberals had started anyways. People seem to forget, like, Carney was the hand behind the puppet of Justin Trudeau. Like, Justin Trudeau, all these policies, he was just an actor. He just played the role of prime minister for 9.5 years. Now you're dealing with one of the guys that was in the back actually writing policy and consulting with policy on it, right? And this is a giant fumble on the Conservative Party of Canada, because let this be a lesson learned that when you campaign for 2.5, 3 years, and even Aaron O'Toole did this too, where I'm not Trudeau and adding in axe the tax is low. I think at one point the Liberals were polling to take about 21 seats. They were going to be decimated. And then all of a sudden they look and it's like, okay, well, if that's the problem, Trudeau and axe the tax, okay, done. Trudeau's gone, and then we'll make a proclamation that we intend on getting rid of the carbon tax. They really backed themselves into a corner. There were so many issues and are so many issues that I'm sure now they're going to finally speak on it. But I mean, you had 3 years to point out glaring holes on what the Liberal government has done. You can call it, a lot of people are saying, well, it's going to be strategy. The media is set against them. I will admit to that for sure. It seems, where the media is supposed to hold power to account, it seemed that ever since Trudeau went into power, they were holding opposition to account more than they actually were for power to account. But what policies have they brought forward in the last 3.5 years?
Yeah, they would argue that Trudeau, would shut it down at any point. And obviously the NDP and Liberals combined up and held a lame duck government into power for far, far, far too long. I think Trudeau and the Liberals would have been gone a long time ago if it wasn't for Jagmeet Singh seeking to be relevant by propping up the Liberals. I mean, that guy, if Trudeau's the most hated man in Canada, he's a close number 2, because how do you criticize a government and say they're dropping the ball every which way, but then at the same time, you're the only reason they're still in power?
Yeah.
That's beyond, that's crazy levels of hypocrisy. And the irony is too rich to ignore.
Well, the NDPs are sleeping in the bed they made in as well. And I mean, whether you want to say it's hearsay or not, that ironically Singh waited to start speaking against the Liberals and saying, hey, we might trigger an election around the same time that his pension kicked in. Well, I mean, now he's polling for what? 10 seats, 11 seats. Like, if it was for the better of the party and for what he believed in for the NDPs, they would have called the election back in October. And if this is something where they saw the threats of tariffs coming in from Donald Trump, back in October, November, which it was already being publicly stated, they would have called an election then, right? Because as far as I'm concerned, this whole tariff nonsense, you're only hearing leadership talking about it a couple of days before. When is it delayed to? April 2nd now? So we're probably going to hear March 27, March 28th. That's when it'll become relevant again, right? And the same thing happened with Doug Ford. All of our leadership is making sure that if any of our jobs are being threatened, that they're turning around and securing their own. They can tell you they're fighting for your jobs, but you got young children. I have young children too. You can say all that you want. They're watching what you do. That's what they're really learning from. Mm-hmm. And if you're, since we're being treated like children from leadership, watch what the leadership's doing. They haven't seemed concerned in the least bit unless the camera is on them. Their actions will tell you otherwise, that they simply don't care. This is a political opportunity for them. And they're getting a 4% pay raise come April anyways. So that's guaranteed income, no matter how much the economy tanks, right? There is too many self-serving people in Parliament, in Queen's Park, all across this nation. And it's becoming more and more evident. And I hope people are starting to pay attention. The polls would tell you not otherwise, but
I really don't buy into it. I think, I still think we're going to end up with a conservative government. I think it's kind of artificial with Carney, but that's just my opinion. But I can't imagine Canadians have forgotten about, like if somebody kicks you in the, square between the legs a number of times, you tend not to forget it. And that's kind of a good analogy of the Liberal government over the last decade. Is everything's gotten really expensive. Crime has gone up. Mm-hmm. Not to sound like Pierre Poilievre over here, but like it's clear. Like you've lived it. I've lived it. I was forced out of Ontario as a result of how bad things have gotten. A lot, Doug Ford and the Conservatives in Ontario definitely haven't helped the cause, but it's a lot of it's federally driven, and their whole idea of let's grow the economy, as it were, was let's drive massive amounts of immigration. And then we have nowhere to house them. And so the housing market just exploded. And it's like, yeah, of course it was going to. Anybody with a brain could have told you that was going to happen. You can't even keep up with the market you have. But anyways, I think all this to say, yeah, they're neck and neck. And how did we get there? And I think it's a large part is marginally conservative policies. Like if the conservatives would actually run as conservatives, I don't even think it's close. But when you run your whole campaign on we're not Trudeau, and one policy like axe the tax, all it takes is the opposition coming in saying, hey, Trudeau's not here anymore, and we'll also axe the tax. And then people go, oh, I guess you got a point to be made there. So we're starting to see the Conservatives expand a little bit and maybe offer some other ideas. Like, I'll play this next clip. Pierre Poilievre talking about a 15% income tax cut. I'm all for income tax cuts. I think you should keep more of what you earn. But again, this kind of marginal, it's a little bit around the edges, but are they willing to address the big elephant in the room, like the immigration levels, and getting that down to really, truly just economic immigration for your engineers, scientists, nurses, doctors, 20, maybe 30,000 a year, so the housing market can catch up, because we've been a decade of getting shellacked with way more people than we've been building houses. So it's a lot of gap to build. But we'll play it. This is Pierre Poilievre talking about income tax, and I guess Carney's proposed something a lesser extent, but still there. Let me know if you can hear this. We hear that or no?
No.
This is why recording is oftentimes better.
Okay.
Try this again. Unable to share. Oh, you dirty dog. Okay, I'm going to try this a different way. I've had issues with Restream. It's this one with audio. There we go. Let's try that again.
The son said about a father and a...
You can hear it now?
Yeah.
So this is like my example of strong on rhetoric, but, lacking conservatism. And I got a bunch of other points I want to make about the Conservatives here, and we'll pull up their policy platform. I bet you didn't even know they had one. They do. And they haven't talked about much of anything in it, but I think Conservatives would agree with a lot of what's in it. But here's Pierre Poilievre with some good conservative rhetoric and then announcing a tax cut.
I can't hear it.
Oh, you lost it?
Yeah, that's okay.
Did we lose it? Man. Anyways, we'll go say this. Hits all the right rhetoric points.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
You get. Did you hear at least the anecdote he gave about the kid talking to his dad?
No, but I read what he talked about, like slashing everything from the lowest tax bracket all the way up to, I think, the middle class. I mean, it needs to be done, right? I know a lot of people. What I'm actually interested in hearing about from both parties is what they're going to talk about with the child care benefit, right? Because I found that was a policy that was a little bit of a bait and switch. Because I mean, look, if you're a single parent, you do get more of a child care benefit regardless, and that was going on prior to the Trudeau government. I know they added in more. But if parents were together, we used to have what was it? You could add both the parents. Say the income splitting. Sorry. So if one parent made $75,000 a year and another made $50,000 a year, you'd add them together and then divide it by 2, and then that would be the tax bracket. You didn't have to take that option, but it was an option there if it was beneficial, right? Because there was some families where the father or the mother was a great breadwinner and somebody else was just taking enough home to just bring the extra goodies. So that was a tax break in and of itself. And like I said before, single parents already had a good benefit on it, but every time they have inflationary spending like this and they're over giving too much as far as government, I don't want to call it handouts, but benefits, all of a sudden people are dependent on it.
That's 100% it.
Right. And that's
what the battle with that policy is. Like, things have gotten so rough for people that if you threaten that in any way, shape, or form, people would lose their minds.
Need it. It used to be a bonus. Like, great, now you can get extra diapers for the baby, the toddler, you can get extra clothes and toys for, and now your 6 or 7 year old, you can afford to put him into soccer and buy cleats for him this year. That's what it was for. But now it's like, no, I need this for groceries. I need this to pay my absurd heating bills or cooling my home down in the winter, right? Like it is now the economy or the people within Canada are now dependent on these benefits. See, that's a problem, right? And this is where things just start to creep and crawl into being dependent on the state. And the only way that the state can actually keep up with these benefits is by starting to take more and more ownership and getting into your life, which I completely disagree with. I would love to see a party say, hey, you know what? All the wasteful spending, we're going to get rid of it all. You get to keep more of your own money. You get to decide how you want to spend it. And we're going to just get the hell out of the way. That's it. That's really what the government should be there for. The government should be here to uphold your public services of education, healthcare, roads being built, infrastructure, and uphold the law. That's it. Shouldn't be here to tell you how to live your life, what's the right way to do it. The small fringe minority thing that got out of the way and telling people with unacceptable views. Like that's where things really got polarized, and it's blowing my mind that I can't say I'm going to be right up front. I am definitely disappointed on how Poilievre has run his leadership. Sounded great coming into the leadership campaign, but I mean that everyone should have saw that coming.
Yeah, he talked like a conservative because he knew he had that.
Yes. But it just blew my mind how the media, as soon as he came in a leadership race, was just calling him divisive. American style politics. Did anyone not pay attention to Trudeau since 2015? That's basically how he got into power. And then he went full bore prior to COVID. And then during COVID, like, do we need to keep going over this? I mean, massage it like, hey, I'm not too sure about this vaccine if this was really a vaccine on a normal market, this wouldn't even be done stage 1 of 3 in the trials. And now how did I become a racist and a misogynist and a xenophobe because I'm a science denier? It's just,
or if you put it out on the market and you expedited it so it was way before a normal testing period, but you didn't force anyone to, I bet you the uptake would have been 1/5 of what it was ended up being. Because I know so many people, I don't want to take it, but I have to because my job's saying I have to, and you can't not live, right? I got kids at home, or I got to pay my mortgage, or I got car. Like you can't sit at home and not do anything. So the vast majority of people I talk to, almost none of them ever said anything to do with health. They felt forced into it. They took it because they were in a corner. And
I agree.
This is the issue. Back to your point earlier, when the government has so much power over your life and you're dependent in a large way on what they say or do, it puts you in an uncomfortable position. Like the government has more and more influence over you because you're in a lot of ways, like the benefits, the healthcare, all these different things they're able to take away from you. People can't turn away from it. So they were turning people away from healthcare. I remember my wife, we were being told she couldn't say goodbye to her grandma, as an example. Well, if that's a private facility, as an example, I'm pretty sure that doesn't happen because I can choose to go to another private facility where they would respect that and figure out a way to deal with it. The government has a monopoly on healthcare, and in some ways it can be good, but in a lot of ways we get subpar healthcare here in Canada. It's wild, but yeah, I'm not very happy with Pierre either. I've told you I was very jaded on politics, or I'm very jaded on politics because they all talk the talk. None of them walk the walk. Like at the end of the day, I'm a blue collar guy. I just want to keep more of what I take. I don't want to be dependent on anyone. I work hard. I know you work hard, but that doesn't get rewarded in Canada. In fact, if you go up, I know people have this conversation like, I might as well not work overtime because they're just going to take it from me anyways. Yeah. Or if I work too much overtime this year, they bump me up a tax bracket. Now they pull back my benefits and I actually lost money.
Yeah.
This is the dependency on government and how they infiltrate into your life, and you can't get away from it. So you get to the point where you go, well, I'm just comfortable here. This is okay. And then gradually over time, your quality of life continues to go down as it has under the Liberals. And I'd like to think it's going to be different under the Conservatives, but back to being jaded on politics, Pierre Poilievre, very strong and conservative rhetoric, but his number 2 in the party. And I say this to people, why don't you trust the Conservatives? Well, I don't trust Carney. I'd rather a conservative government. Make it very clear.
Yeah.
Conservatives will be marginally better in some ways. They'll make the country maybe like marginally, but it's going to march in the same direction, generally speaking. The number 2 deputy prime minister that Pierre chose is a woman named Melissa Lantsman. If you don't know about her, you're about to learn. Listen, advocated for Wal-Mart to stay open during COVID. They deserve to be open while mom and pop shops are closed down. And we'll play a video from Rebel News that touches on that. Leader of the New Blue Party, Jim Carahalios, also hammered hammered Melissa Lantsman and the Doug Ford Conservatives over that. Melissa obviously made the jump from provincial to federal.
Yeah.
But she also lobbied for the pharmaceutical company to reduce burdens and regulations during COVID. And she advocated for universal basic income, which hopefully this clip will play. Here we go.
There's some political parties now saying, Melissa, that they want to have this as a steady thing, the minimum income.
Well, you know what? I actually do somewhat agree with that. And there's a conservative position on this. The universal income benefit, the thing that you're talking about, where you're giving people a living wage, that's going to come. And it could be by a different name.
Doesn't sound very conservative to me, Melissa.
I actually think conservatives can own this because you know what it does do? It does take government out of the mix of a bunch of means-tested programs thrown out of Ottawa by a bunch of bureaucrats and gives everybody that thing that they need to get back to work. And we put that onto people and we believe in them and we try to get them out of poverty.
How are future...
That's not a very conservative thing, Melissa. This guy used to be a liberal. Like he was in charge of like liberal strategy for the Liberal Party. He's been telling her, listen, it's not a very conservative position you're taking. I'm saying this to tell you, Pierre Poilievre, number 2 in his party, he picked her.
Yeah.
UBI advocating, let's keep Wal-Mart open, and I'll pull that up right now. Your leader of the New Blue pointed that out very astutely. Oh, that's not the one we want. That's the one we want. They're going after Adamson Barbecue for opening while Walmart can stay open. Walmart can afford to hire 2 lobbyists who used to work for Ford. Walmart can phone Ford, but small businesses like Adamson Barbecue can't. And we'll pull up next. I'm going to play Rebel News talking about this exact thing with Melissa Lantsman. One day I'll be smooth with it, Brian. One day.
All good here, buddy. Don't worry, Greg.
There we go.
Because the big business is well taken care of. As I've said earlier today, the Walmart CEO at a very high expense hired 2 of Rob Ford's staff, Melissa Lantsman, who's actually now seeking the Conservative Party nomination in Thornhill federally. So she's the Walmart candidate. And David Tarrant. So Walmart comes in, hires these 2 Ford staffers, Lantsman and Tarrant, pays them an extraordinary amount of money. So it's the gravy train. So Walmart gets a private meeting with the premier and convinces him to let them not only stay open, but to sell all sorts of non-essentials just to hoover up any business from the blue-collar lockdown.
Yeah, nailed it. And this is the thing. You're going to try to convince people at that time. It's safer to go to Walmart with hundreds of other people, right? This was the argument. It's somehow safer than going to a mom and pop shop where they might only have 1 or 2 people in a store at a time anyways. Give me a break. And this all to say, that's the number 2 in the Conservative Party. You wonder why I'm so jaded on conservative politics. That's because that's a signal to every red Tory and every liberal that this is your number 2. That's who you picked. Hey, all this conservative rhetoric that you never hear us talk about, and we'll touch on that after we get your comments here. In their policy platform, talk about gender dysphoria, talk about vaccines and the rights and freedoms of people, talk about China. You never hear anything about it. All you're going to hear is boots, not suits, carbon tax, we'll cut it, and other marginal issues that they think are safe to float that aren't too conservative. Because don't tell people that we're actually conservative, because they aren't. Because they put it in there so that conservatives can see it and say, he really believes this. Yeah. Then you vote, and then they turn around and go, we can't do any of that stuff. That's just for you idiots who bought into it. Yeah. That's why we never talked about it. That way we don't ever have to own up to it when it's time to actually govern. I'll get your comments. Sorry.
Yeah, the extremists, right? Look, the first thing that popped into my mind as soon as Melissa Lantsman became the deputy leader for the CPC is look, she's well connected and she's good at fundraising. So that, I mean, like, money has a lot to do with it. I find the whole UBI policy, I know there's a lot of people I've debated with on the left end of the spectrum that just get absolutely angry that I keep bringing up the whole Bolsheviks communist system. But I mean, this is just a different time, and it is the same exact thing. I mean, do we have a ton of billionaires out there that are absolutely greedy? Sure. Tax them more. They're going to just take their enterprise and leave the country. That's what's been going on for a long time. They don't have a problem with it in the States. The States, you know, right? And they're paying a lot less taxes out there. You do not need a universal basic income. You need to get out of the pockets of Canadians and stop sending all, like, I think out of Canada's 1%, I mean, top 1% earners, we lost half of them. We've lost half of them in the last 6 or 7 years. So now it's coming down to people like you and I that have to make up for it, right?
That's a problem.
It's a huge problem. And people, look, I used to be, I've been in the logistics industry for 18 years. The first company I worked for, I was in management for quite some time. And I would tell everybody that was employed under me, look, stop counting other people's money, because you're literally getting in the way of your own success. And I was correct. Those that listened to me and just focused on themselves started to find more success. Those that remained bitter and watched everybody else's paychecks, those were the ones that just failed over and over again. So that's where my mentality comes from. It. You got to focus on yourself and not somebody else's success, whether it's done fairly or not. Doesn't matter. I mean, I have a grandfather that came to Canada in 1958. He was happy to have enough money to stay with his cousin and buy his first belt. And here I am today. Okay. So it whether that can happen nowadays or not, it's a different story. But I mean, the road has been paved there for you to be able to at least make your own successes. That's the first point. The second point is anything with UBI. I remember when this clip came out with Lantsman, it really did go viral after she became the deputy leader of the Conservatives. My in-laws are from Romania. My father-in-law, one of the times that he came to visit, I showed him this, and the look in his eyes was alarming. It was alarming because he's heard this story before. Now, he grew up he was born in the 47, I think. It doesn't matter. Not relevant. He grew up under Ceausescu's reign and watched the whole USSR movement, the whole Soviet Union come. And this was their strategy as well back then. Everybody we can lift everybody out of poverty. We can just have some sort of a basic income for everyone. And they would blame the farmers, and they wanted to seize properties back then. And
you're doing that in Ontario.
Oh,
right. The Wal-Mart land grab. Sorry, I had to throw in a little Ontario.
No. But I mean, where this all ties into is where are these policies coming from these days, and where are they coming down? It is coming down from, the Bilderberg groups, the World Economic Forum, all the elites. It's not like these are James Bond islands where a bunch of bad guys get together. No, it's pay to access for policy. This is where the wealthy and powerful people can spend $75 to get into a private meeting with, I don't know, the deputy prime minister and the finance minister. Mrs. Freeland, what have you been doing in Davos? But they also have their own Young Global Leaders program, which is exactly parallel to what Joseph Stalin used to do at the Kremlin. That's how somebody like Nicolae Ceausescu came into power in Romania. They had all the right words. If you want to be creeped out a bit, go ahead and find one of his speeches and get the AI translate on it. Because he was talking about the same exact issues that they're saying now, right? Socialism for everybody, equal rights for everybody, equality and equity. Now, equality for all, 100%. I think anybody with a heart and a brain everybody should have equal opportunity. There should be equality for all. Everybody, no matter where you're from, ethnicity, sexual orientation, anything like that. The poor class, the working class, you should have your own an equal opportunity just as much as the next guy. But when you start talking about equity is where danger comes in, and a lot of people don't understand. Equity is how much of the pie that you own. So, but what on earth does that have to do with equality? You should have your opportunity to harvest as much of that pie or as little, and get by as however you want. It's your life. You should choose to live it the way that's best for you, as long as you're not harming others. I have no problems with it. But when it comes to mandating equity and anything like that, it's absolutely nonsensical, right?
The irony of
I don't really have nice things to say about Melissa Lantsman. And yeah, my kindergarten teacher told me, if you don't have anything nice to say, don't say it at all.
the irony is like the people that preach, you talked about all these groups, these elite groups. Well, those are the circles that Carney runs in. And
yeah.
The irony of it is like they'll preach, in equity. We need equal outcomes and we need to care about, and you don't care enough about people if you don't believe in our ideology. And they want to steer away from capitalism and the things that actually drive successful societies. And if you want a genuinely successful society, you want as many people in the middle and lower classes able to raise up their incomes, have more of the share, and have less discrepancy between the middle class, the lower class, and the ultra wealthy, which is what genuine capitalism drives at. Not crony corporatism and stuff that we have, where they call it capitalism, but we have monopolies, oligarchies, people with way too much influence and access to politicians that average people don't have, and they get beneficial deals. That's not what we're talking about. Want as many people in the lower classes, like the lower middle income classes, to have a bigger share of the pie. And what they're doing, all these policies do, we're here to help. Hey, we want to give you UBI. We want to give you this, that, and they promise you the world, and all it does is shrink your share of the pie. And there's still going to be a class of ultra wealthy and elite, but the discrepancy is going to be way bigger between that and the average person. And then they have all the power and control at the same time, because now you're completely dependent on them. You can't just go out and work hard. You need all those benefits that we talked about. And if you don't have them and they can shut them off, that's a bad place to be in a society. And that is the communist, side of things. That's when it does go to the Bolshevik revolution and you read about what happened there. People think you're crazy when you talk about these things, but seeing the parallels in history doesn't make you crazy. I think it just, it makes you observant, and you want to be cautious about those things creeping into your society, because this thing that we have, freedom and capitalism, it can be taken away at any time. And you need to fight and defend those freedoms each and every day. So when bad ideas get presented, like a Melissa Lantsman saying UBI is great, I think there's a conservative case, and you go, hey, you guys are supposed to conserve freedom, conserve capitalism. That's in your name, is to conserve our freedom and our order here in Canada. And she's going, you know what? Yeah, I don't need that. Universal basic income. I think there's a conservative case. That's the reason I'm so jaded on conservative politics in Canada. And you dug for it, it's not even a question. No. But the conservatives on the federal level are very good with the rhetoric, but not so much on the execution or any. And then you see the people in behind the scenes, like the number two. And I pulled that up. I want to pull up their actual policy platform. I showed you this earlier. Oh, wrong one. Okay, so we have vaccines. We support Conservative Party, believes striking a balance between encouraging development of drugs. We believe, well, where do we go? Maybe it's another policy here. We affirm to have the right to refuse vaccines for moral, religious, medical, or other reasons. And then there's another spot further down, maybe in another. Public health, vaccines, and personal protective. Oh, where'd it go? Here it is. National uniform right to informed consent and bodily autonomy. Every Canadian is entitled to informed consent and bodily autonomy. Health professionals must disclose an uncensored risk-benefit analysis for any treatment, including vaccines, while protecting patient privacy. No constitutional right shall be restricted for refusing medical treatments or disclosure. Our country shall promote a scientific, unprejudiced, balanced, open discourse. Now, gender dysphoria. Conservative government will protect children by prohibiting life-altering medicinal or surgical interventions on minors under 18 to treat gender confusion or dysphoria, and encourage encourage positive mental and physical health support. Now, they also talk about not having women in, or not having men and women's
Yeah.
locker rooms, etc., things like that. They talk about China a little bit there, how we need to address this. And I bring this up to say, it's like, this is what we were talking about earlier. We're really conservative. We just can't talk about it. Trust us, you know? And then you're like, well, but your number two is like advocating for UBI and lobbied for Walmart during lockdowns. And I'm the one, and they go, well, you're just trying to get the liberals reelected. That's the favorite go-to, right? If you attack the conservatives, you're somehow supporting the liberals. And it's a wild place to be in Canadian politics when just pointing out the truth makes you somehow a liberal supporter.
Sure. Well, look, I get it. I mean, it's some people are looking at it as strategy and they don't want to get things blown out of proportion, and then the media against them, and then they have the whole, I know the term woke is overused, but like, for lack of a better term, the woke angry mob all over you. Look, I get that too, because I mean, even from me running a campaign in a provincial election, I was brutally honest about my views on absolutely everything. And I saw where it turned a lot of people off. And then just the slander came. I mean, like, it didn't, the names and the back push I was getting made absolutely no sense to what I was proposing whatsoever. So, I mean, I understand where, a lot of political scientists and strategists are like, don't even touch the issue. But it's like, no, you should touch the issue. And look, the left is only keeping, the Overton window keeps shifting further and further towards the left, because they are willing to put an extreme idea out there. I mean, the Green Party many years ago even talked about we should abolish property rights whatsoever. Obviously, that's not going to happen, but if you have the conversation out there, that's going to help move the Overton window shifting left, 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 and left. Conservatives need to grow up here and talk about, I mean, so what are they going to call you, an extremist?
Yeah.
They were calling you an extremist for saying I'm not Trudeau and axe the tax. They're going to do it anyways. Speak the truth and put it out there. So on to the points that you touched there. Okay, as far as like vaccines and anything like that go, look, there was always vaccine skepticism. There always has been. There always will be. But do you know what put the nail in the coffin? Oh, Operation Warp Speed. Thank you, Mr. Donald Trump, for getting that one through. But regardless to say, okay, as soon as the COVID-19 vaccine program came out and people started to get skeptical of it, okay, it was really like a mass populist trial into it. If you wanted to take it, you didn't want to take it, whatever your reasons were. I mean, I have people in my family with comorbidities, okay, and they've gotten COVID a few times. It hit them really hard. Should they have taken their chances for it? Absolutely. Right. I have a grandmother with she's very elderly. She has dementia. She keeps taking these shots too. Are they beneficial to them? I can't argue yes or no. But for anybody else who had COVID, or, there was a bunch of skepticism. I mean, it already showed. There was kids were dropping on the ice, playing hockey. Look at Sean Hartman. For God's sakes, Dan Hartman has been trying to get people's attention for the last, 3.5 years? Nobody, people are still slandering a father who had to bury his own son, where the own coroner told him that, no, these spike proteins, your son produced too many, and he died. Right? He had died of heart failure from these shots. There should have never been a mandate for it. It should have never been a situation where if you want to keep your job or make your own livelihood, you're pretty much putting a gun to a man or a woman's head by saying anything like this, right? And look, overall, it's created vaccine skepticism, and you did it to your own self. Now, with the region where I'm from, there is a lot of measles cases going on right now. If you look at the statistics, it's kind of on par, but it's getting highlighted by the media even more so. Letters came home from my son's school talking about it from Southwestern Public Health. I called the nurse there and I asked a couple of questions, and I stated, look, if somebody would come out and just state maybe these mRNA vaccines, we don't know the long-term effects to it, and this is not on par with the traditional vaccines schedule that children have, maybe people would be less skeptical about it. I will not say her name because this isn't anything on the record. Do you know what she did? I was ready to actually see if we could have a conversation. She agreed with me wholeheartedly, full stop, and said that this whole situation has made their job so much harder, right? Like she's overworked now for it. So that's the first step into it. The second point I think you brought up was the whole gender dysphoria. Was
Yeah,
that
that
the
was in the
second thing?
platform as well. Yep.
Okay, look, I have people within the LGBT community in my family. And do you know who is the most tired of all of this, over the top LGBT rhetoric? They are. They're the most tired people in my family. They feel like they've been used. It was one thing 10, 15 years ago. Look, I grew up, roughly around the same age as you did. We called each other inappropriate names. We recited skits from the Chappelle Show. We said stupid things amongst each other. Nobody actually had any hate towards anybody. This is absolute nonsense. The things that are being taught in the schools, especially in the Toronto District School Board, the Waterloo Regional School Board, and places in British Columbia, is absolutely inappropriate for single-digit age children. You want to make an argument that it should be part of an education program for teenagers in high school? Okay, maybe we can have a conversation about it. But for prepubescent children, the content and material out there, no, you can't even go to Queen's Park or Parliament and show some of the books that they're showing in there. This is confusing children a lot. Are there people who are like have legitimate gender dysphoria and they're going to grow up to be an adult and they are going to make their own personal decisions to take medication and have surgeries to at least switch their genders, however it'll be? Look, you're a grown adult. I have no problem with it. Go ahead. There is no hate towards you at all. Live your life. Live your life and be happy. But I mean, the way it has gone, absolutely politicized, and the hysteria behind it, and I mean, don't you think it's been taken advantage by some sick people out there? It has 100%. If you're within the own LGBT community, you should be concerned that your movement has been hijacked by absolute radical activists who think, my single age children, I shouldn't even be calling them boys or girls yet. They haven't even, gotten to the age where they can figure it out. No, it's pretty clear. And for anybody within my, family or circle of friends, yeah, you could tell at a young age, right? And they would have been groomed to be doing something that would have absolutely ruined their lives, right? Both physically and mentally. And then if, they turned around and said that they regretted anything, they would have been abandoned by the own community that they were just propped up by. So I'm glad to see those policies are in there. Now, can they at least talk about it and grow a pair? And as far as like men in women's sports, there's no argument for it. There's zero argument for it.
But you have a background in MMA, right? Like,
I know the
Fallon
Fox issue. I remember the Fallon Fox issue in like 2015, 2016. Oh my goodness. She
for lack of a better term, she manhandled woman. She wasn't talented.
No.
She was a man fighting woman.
Yeah.
And didn't she break a woman's skull at one point? Like that should have never happened.
I'm not sure about that. That might be hearsay. I can't say that, but I mean, there is a huge difference because I mean, there are the women that I've trained with that are highly skilled, highly strong, and I'm thinking like, oh man, wow, this would be really tough for my wife. There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference, and I mean, like. I mean, even things like arts that I absolutely love with jiu-jitsu, where it's like, yeah, a lot of the moves and leverages are there into place for you to take out somebody who is bigger than you, but that person also has to have no idea what they're doing. Otherwise, if they're strong, like, I mean, if, somebody that's the size of Brock Lesnar, who's going to dwarf me just because I know how to fight and I'm skilled behind it. If that guy has any inkling on what's going on, I mean, I'm going to just have my head thrown in the bricks. So, yeah, absolutely not. I think there should be no exceptions to that whatsoever. And if this issue just keeps coming up, I mean, they create your own league, right?
Yeah,
it's not that big of a deal. have a sport amongst you. Like, if you want to be treated equally, which you should be, and I've said it already here today, equality for all, then you should have your own league in sports and just leave it at that.
It's like a hot button issue, like a lot of these things, and just no one's willing. I'm sure you've had these conversations at the kitchen table or with friends or with family, and you almost never run into pushback. It's not like all my family's conservative, right? Like, so I'm sure it's the case for you too. So it's not like it's just what do you call it? Feedback bias. Like everyone you talk
echo chamber.
Echo chamber. That's right.
Yeah.
I don't know what the chamber. It's not like it's just an echo chamber, but no one's willing to say them. And then you see it in the conservative platform, and I almost had to chuckle because it's you guys aren't willing to say it either. Like, just because it's in writing doesn't mean anything. Like,
yeah.
I asked people what does the Conservative Party of Canada stand for under Pierre Poilievre, and they can't even tell you anything. They, I guess, axed the tax. Okay,
Stop.
That's it. After 3 years in opposition, that's all you can tell me about him.
Yeah.
So how do they get back? I guess that's the question, right? We're neck and neck. April 28th is the federal election. How do the Conservatives get back to majority like status in the polls? Is it just a case of this is going to change and it's going to they'll find their footing, or is this really a case of they need to actually be conservative here and do the things that made them so popular in the first place, which was be conservative? But they seem afraid to do that. They're trying to play to both sides of it, and you're not going to win over the liberal media. You're not going to win over the liberal base. So I don't know what we're doing here. You're trying to win conservatives over, and you're trying to win undecided voters over who stay home in droves in Canada. It's the same case in Ontario, right? A lot of people didn't know about New Blue as an example, but Doug Ford didn't excite people. What was it, 44% turnout? Like, not good when over half of people say, yeah, it's not even worth getting off the couch. You guys all suck. That's where we're at in Canada.
Well, okay. Well, I mean, you're talking to the guy that, I got 3% of the vote in the only election I ever ran in. So, I mean, I can't say that, I'm an expert on winning over the people. Although my workout was cut out for me on a short notice campaign. And
New Blue's still building brand recognition. You don't have 100-year-old party brand that people recognize since the birth of the country, right? Like, it's a different situation is what I'm getting at.
Oh, thanks for having my back, Greg. But I'll take some humble pie right here. Look, I'm really sick of, why is this election about Donald Trump? This election, if the Conservatives wanted to go with a smart strategy, because I've seen both their attack ads, it's the same thing. Oh, he's going to be more of Trump's friend than we are. No, he's going to be more of Trump's friend than we are. He'll sell us out to Trump. He'll sell us out to Trump more. This is nonsense. You have a record of a liberal government that is absolutely atrocious for the last 9.5 years. That's where if you want to go on any attack at all, talk about their record, talk about what they did wrong, talk about policies that you suggested in the last 9.5 years and how you would have handled the situation, and go from there. Talk about the endless resources. Saudi Arabia, absolute rich country, no homeless problems there. Right. And they're paying far less taxes because they are exploiting their resources. Now, I'm not saying go out and turn on the tap and just never let it stop flowing out in Alberta, but you need to up production. You need to up production in our forestry industry. We have a major agricultural industry. We have fresh water for days. There should be zero homelessness in Canada unless you've literally made the decision to be there. There should be an opportunity for you immediately, right? Anybody on the streets, it's like, hey, great, we got a job for you in this sector, this sector, this sector, this sector. You don't like to do, even if you don't want to put in the hard labor work, there should be a job at least for absolutely everybody who has some sort of a skill. If you can put your name if you can take a pen and put your name on a piece of paper, there should be a job available for you in this country. And that's what they should be campaigning on, not fears. And I mean, just also educate the public. I tried to do that in my campaign as well, where, there's a lot of people I was talking to, who's like, so the cost of everything's going to go up 25% as soon as Donald Trump puts these tariffs in. It's like, no, it doesn't work that way. The 25% tariff is coming. Yes, it's coming on Canadian products, going to the American market. That's going to raise the price for American consumers. Okay. And I know I do have a couple of customers in the logistics industry that did when that was I forget what it was, in the beginning of March 2nd. It doesn't matter. The last time that it went through just for a couple of days, one of them had to eat it on the bill because their customer just absolutely refused it. So, I mean, is it a problem between relationships between the like Americans buying from Canada? Absolutely. But has the government done anything about it? They've been calling elections and going for political opportunities this entire time instead of actually going and negotiating something out of this. And to actually think that we're going to just abandon the American market just because of a president that's only going to serve one term. That's it. Donald Trump is gone. November of 2028, they'll elect a new president, and then January of 2029, they'll already be into power. Like, this is very short-sighted. 80 to 85% of everything we export goes to the United States. They have been a great partner for well over 100 years. We are cohesive nations. Why are you playing into the divisiveness? Like, it makes absolutely no sense. You're playing into the exact game that if Trump has any strategy at all from his, book, the Art of the Deal, he's literally going to throw it way out there to an absurd starting point of a negotiation. At least start to bring it back here and find somewhere in between, and don't play it out in the media. That's one thing that I had a major problem that Doug Ford did when he announced the election here in Ontario. He's literally at the podium saying, we're going to be devastated. Hundreds of thousands of jobs are going to be. You're publicly stating this to somebody who clearly loves to win in negotiations. Like Donald Trump does nothing more than winning.
That's what he spoke about in his book. He doesn't drink, he doesn't smoke. He gets his thrills by winning deals. That's in his book, The Art of the Deal. Yeah,
and you just handed him a layup. So what can the Conservatives do? Stop playing into this. Stop trying to, I'll stand up to Trump better than you do. Talk about ideas for Canada. Talk about unlocking interprovincial trade, things that should have just been, I hate to say, Poilievre's line here, but this should have been common sense a long time ago. Looks like common sense isn't so common. It's more of a rare one these days, but right. Like, let's bring some rare sense into the equation. There you go.
I think that's a big point. Is like they're playing almost the liberal game of making this election all about Trump. They've sucked for a decade. They've made life really bad for a decade. And if we were competitive in a business sense, and we had an inviting environment for business and entrepreneur ventures, then we wouldn't be in the situation when we're so concerned about what the United States is going to do. Just make Canada a desirable place to be. We are I would argue we're the richest nation in the world. We just haven't developed it yet because we're so stupid in the sense that we won't, because of all our internal fighting on policies, we just can't get it done. But we're standing on the richest nation on earth because of our resources, and we just haven't developed them yet. But make it inviting and hammer those points home. We're going to make this a competitive business environment. He's touched on some of the pipeline stuff and getting big resource developments done in under 6 months. Stop talking about the Trump stuff. Make it a sub note of the campaign and hammer out, here's how we make life better for you, more affordable for you. Here's what our conservative government is actually going to do for you. Stop worrying about Trump. We're not. We're going to worry about making your life better each and every day. And we'll deal with him. We're not worried about it. And then talk about those points. I mean, like, it's funny that he wrote a book 30 years ago. He gave you an insight into exactly how he thinks about it. And apparently no politician in Canada can figure it out. The guy literally wrote, denigrate your opponents, shoot way higher than where you actually want to be.
Yeah. And
he said he gets off on the art of the deal. Like, that's what makes him excited to get up in the morning. Nothing else other than winning in deals. That's what he really enjoys doing. And nobody can figure it out that maybe, going to the media and trying to make this an ego battle with a guy that clearly has a big one is not a winning strategy for the country that you claim to represent.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore. Yeah.
I think that's a good place to close. Where can people find you, Brian? Are you still online? You're going to be running in the next provincial election, correct?
I'm on X. Hold on one second. I just want to make sure I have my handle right. I'm at Brian. That's with an I. Sorry, Brian's with a Y, but I spelled mine properly. Brian with an I, Brian. New Blue, E is in Edward or Elgin. M is in Middlesex, and L is in London. So Brian New Blue EML is where I'm at, and I'm also on Facebook as well. You can find me under Brian Figueiredo. If you're on Wheel of Fortune, you're going to lose the bank buying a value or value, buying a vowel. Excuse me. It's Figueiredo. Yeah, it's a lot of vowels there. I got good at spelling at a young age. Would you believe that, Greg?
You had a little bit of practice, eh?
But yeah, and I mean, yeah, that's the plan. I didn't just go through 4 weeks of learning how the sausage is made and finding out that it's a lot more unedible than you think it is, and I'm going to just get back to it. No, I'll be running again. Yeah. There was about the federal election too. It was like, I don't, who's there? Look, New Blue, I 100% align with. We're on point value for value. At the federal level, I don't see it. I would like to see it, but right now I don't.
That's fair. Can people get involved with you? They message you on Twitter. Do you have an EDA that they can contact, an EDA website, if they want to volunteer?
Yes. The website is, hold on one second. Bear with me. I'll pull that up.
And we'll link all this stuff in the description for people that want to.
Yeah, I believe it's newblueeml.ca, and that can go to, you can donate to the future campaign. We won't just, I'm not going to just be quiet for the next 4 years. I mean, I'm going to live my life and, be with my family and manage my career. But I mean, all my complaining about the political realm and having solutions, it's off the dinner table now. I'm going to spare my family and start putting it out in the public. Right?
You need a vehicle to drive that home, and that vehicle is New Blue. If people want to help, Brian Figueiredo, I'm going to mess up your writing. Elgin Middlesex
London. Yeah.
Elgin Middlesex London. If you're in that riding, what I'd say is donate and not just be an armchair warrior. Get involved. They need volunteers. Sign up early. Get to know Brian. Get to know the people in the EDA that are going to be out there with you, and give this man a war chest so that next time an election comes around, he's on the ground ready to run and really make some noise in his riding. Thanks for joining me. It's been a fun one. And maybe we'll do it again closer to the election, because I enjoy speaking with you, and we're going to probably have lots of material to cover in the next 4 weeks.
Oh, yeah. Well, hopefully it's positive material. And yeah, anytime, Greg. I appreciate it. I very much appreciate what you're doing. We need more voices like yourself out there. Any kind of media rumblings whatsoever. I mean, I know you're trying to close off, but I'm gonna state a few things here. I was misquoted quite a few times. Anytime I made a major newspaper or media outlet, they took, if it was in print, they took what I said out of context, right? Or just fumbled a word here or there, which is like, the wrong word. But it's like, no, context is everything. And it can go from, like, you've just made a liar out of me to the public. And as much as I want to correct myself, no one's going to see that as much as what you publicated. So, good, honest work, calling it for what it is. I appreciate it. We need more of it. And if there's anybody out there watching that, gets inspired from what Greg's doing, like, get in touch with Greg. He should be growing this company as well.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Well, we don't have a lot of money. Fun fact, it's not a profitable business to be in the media space. That being said, if you want to start, want a place to write, want a place to do videos, and you want to talk Canadian politics, we'll help you get started. More than happy to do that for sure. Brian, it's been a pleasure, and we'll chat soon, all right?
Always. Thanks, Greg.
Cheers.